and welcome to the Circuit Zandvoort here for the 7th round of the SRL TCR League Season 9. It is going to be a good one, especially as our championship standings have had their drop weeks applied, putting the championship contenders back into the mix, especially in that pro category. Now, all of the classes have had a big shake-up with the drop weeks. The teams championship has had a big shake-up as well. We will get more onto the standings in just a moment's time. First of all, though, this is the 7th round of our skiing. We are at the Circuit Zandvoort running the full Grand Prix layout here today. We head to Winton for the National Circuit next week on November 28th. That's for the 8th round of competition. Before we head across to virtual Germany for the final 2 rounds, Hockenheimring on December 5th and the Nürburgring on December 12th is going to lead to some fantastic competition as we head into the back end of this season now. It has been an extremely interesting one to watch, and as I was putting my stats together for today's race, I realised that we don't have too many repeat race winners in any of the 3-car classes. In fact, the biggest repeat race winner is Dan Mould. 5 wins to his name. He took his 5th one at the 2nd race in Sebring, but we saw we've seen a number of drivers just take 1 victory in that pro class. Arthur Thurtle, for example, an extremely fast driver, only taken 1 victory so far. Daniel Downing only getting to the front 1 time so far. And a driver very much in contention of the Pro Drivers' Championship is Kim Borkland. He has only won once so far this season. That was all the way back in round 1 at Road Atlanta. That was the 2nd race of asking. However, he has placed it on pole 2 times. That was at round 3 of Interlagos and the 5th round at Red Bull Ring. He is also looking to be the fastest in practice right now. Could he potentially go for a 3rd pole position, which is what he's going to want for the championship? Talking about the championship then, I've spoken about it enough. Let's get the pro standings up and looking at it, because Dan Mould's significant championship lead has evaporated over the last week with the drop weeks being applied, those drop races now being applied to all the championship drivers, which means Dan Mould no longer has a lead of over 100 points. He has a lead of just 14 points to Kim Borkland. Borkland, like I said, fastest here in practice. Dan Mould, 3rd fastest right now. So they're close to each other in the standings as it stands. But right now it is looking to be an extremely close championship fight between the 2 of those. It's a bit of a drop down to Arthur Thurtle. Like I said, Thurtle, another driver, only to take 1 win so far. That was at the Red Bull Ring, so it was rather recently. He sits 3rd in the pro standings. Adam Delmont sits in 4th. And it is Tony Walker right now in 5th position, as there has been a number of driver shake-ups in that championship. Logan McKenzie there in 9th position. He took his 2nd win in the 1st race at Sebring, his 1st one coming just the previous race, the 2nd race at Red Bull Ring. So McKenzie hoping to find some time out there as well. Looking at our Pro-Am standings, and it is Carl Hardy who is out there on top, 29 points clear of Fraser Geraghty. The Pro-Am Championship is even more interesting to look at when you look at race winners. Carl Hardy, the 1st driver to repeat a race win. That was in the 8th race of the season. It was Portimao for round number 4. It's the 2nd race of the day. The only 2 drivers to have repeated race wins are Carl Hardy and Kev Eilert. Eilert taking his 2nd win of the season in class at the 1st round of Sebring. That being said, Eilert down in 6th in the championship right now. It's Cooper Akers doing a good job in third position, but does have a 44-point deficit, needing to climb up to Kyle Hardy. Bit closer to Garrity, but it is going to be interesting to see what they can do. Once again, it's another championship where it was another standings where the driver in second is yet to take a victory. That is a class victory yet to go onto the boards for Fraser Garrity. He'll be hoping to do that at some point within the back end of this season. Marhan Kodeman sits in fourth, falling from the championship lead with the drop weeks applied. And it is Ryan Stringer, I don't know why it says Ryan Stringer, it's Ryan Stringer, who sits in fifth position right now between Kodeman and Aylett. Dek Crowther sits in 7th position ahead of Daniel Lewis. Craig Walters in 9th. And Jura Lakonen sits in 10th position in that one, but I don't believe that Lakonen is racing today. He is feeling a bit under the weather, and therefore hopefully we'll be watching from the comfort of his sofa. Over across to the AM standings then, it's Lucas Henschel who leads that one right now, and I'm not surprised Henschel taking his 4th class win of the season at the second race in Sebring. It puts him on 281 points ahead of Scott Malcolm. Malcolm, of course, has also taken 4 wins in class this season. That was taking both wins at Brands Hatch, both wins at Interlagos as well. So Malcolm will be looking to try and find his way up the championship order before the end of the season as well, but we don't see him racing once again today. Driver who is back today in that amateur standing is a driver down in 10th position. He has only raced so far this season at the Red Bull Ring. What did he manage to do in class? He took victory in both of those races. He is sitting 6th fastest overall right now. That is the amateur driver. He is faster than all of the Pro-Am drivers at the moment, which is absolutely amazing for Stephen Fry, and he will be looking to find more points to his name. I believe if he was to race in all of the next set of races, I think points-wise, he is still mathematically in contention. However, I think realistically adds to contention for a championship, but should move his way pretty nicely up the order. Of course, Vegard Olaisen Leah took home his first win back at the first race in Sebring. So he'll be looking to try and repeat that. It was a really good win, actually, from Leah, looking quite fast. So we'll be looking to do well here as we head now towards the qualifying session around this circuit. Before we get across, though, we have just enough time to have a look at the team standings. And again, this has had a massive shift up. The top 3 staying as they were. However, a massive shift up behind with all of the drop weeks that have been applied to individual drivers, obviously being applied, therefore, to team results as well. This circuit still leads the way with 159 points, but not as dominantly now. Only 33 points ahead of BSTV, so we'll be hoping to try and move up into that lead of the championship within the next 4 rounds before we head across to the end of the season. Just Give It A Go are doing well to remain in 3rd, but they are only 4 points clear of Sim Racing Norway, so they are not safe in that 3rd place at the moment. Jazz Academy up in 5th place. They have made a couple of positions gained with those drop weeks, as did Hydro Race Racing Forces as well. Again, really close between those two, just 6 points separating those drivers. And SRL aren't really that far behind, 21 points off of Hydro Race, which, I mean, could easily change as we head into the rest of the season. Lumen Motorsports, they sit in 8th position. Next Gen Racing have dropped all the way down to 9th, and Blade Designs moves into the top 10 for the standings so far. So they'll be looking to try and find their way a little bit further up the order as we head around this wonderful circuit. Talking about the wonderful circuit of Zandvoort, of course, located in North Holland of the Netherlands, the 2.64 mile circuit heads around the dunes of the beaches, and it is a brilliant circuit at that. 14 turns, it undulates, it goes up, it goes down, you've got the banked corners. As the refresh for the F1 made it happen, it is going to be an absolutely brilliant couple of races for this one, especially as the championships have been blown wide open with the drop weeks involved. As I was saying before, Borkland is currently the fastest in the practice session. He remains fastest in this practice session, but it is not a huge gap between all of the drivers. In fact, the biggest gap I can do between drivers is 0.3 of a second. That's intervals, I should say. Between drivers is 0.3 of a second within the top 30, which is absolutely ridiculous. There are drivers that I've just noticed, Ryan Stringer and Stuart Gibbons are actually tied in this qualifying session of 44.498 from both of them. They have gone an exactly identical lap time. Let's see if that happens in the qualifying session, which we are just about to begin right now. If you are here watching live, thank you so much for joining us, and make sure that you hit that subscribe button to the SRL YouTube channel and that you hit the thumbs up to the stream as well, so we can see that you enjoy this, as I'm sure you are going to be excited to watch racing, just as I am as well from the commentary booth. Qualifying then underway here, 10 minutes on the clock. Drivers are going to be storming their way out of pit lane to get this session going, and as you can see, it's a little bit busy out there, I'll say. Oh, whoa, whoa, this is yeah, that's how that went. Okay then. Well, that was an interesting pit exit going there as the rest of the drivers. Oh wow. The rest of the drivers all had themselves out. The luck of being sim racers, eh? We haven't just seen millions of dollars worth of damage. It's all okay. They can just reset their cars and try again as they head around now. Around the Zandvoort circuit to the back end of the circuit, the front group got out without incident, and therefore they'll be heading up towards the back end of the circuit to prepare for their laps. Of course, only 10 minutes in this session means that, well, really every minute does count. You're not going to see drivers going back into the pit lane for a fresh set of tyres or to refresh their fuel. They were just going to go for the duration of this one. That is for sure, as some drivers fighting to find space. We're going to ride on board with the man who placed it inside the top 10 in the practice session, Stephen Fry, who is running extremely quickly in that amateur class and will be looking to take he'll be hoping for a matching 4th win of the season, which will be matching wins with Lucas Henschel and with Scott Malcolm. Right, round the final corner we go, heading up towards the first qualifying lap. We ride on board with Stephen Fry. He still wobbles his tyres a little bit to get some heat into them. We head up towards turn number 1. He is going to be getting that toe along the straights, but of course if he gets too close to the cars ahead, that'll be slowing him down into the corners. A huge train ahead of him here. They're all going to be working together whether they want to or not because of the toe. But if you get too close to that car ahead, you are going to be hindered. Running that wider line, it is the faster line there. The tighter line not going to find you speed on the exit. It'll give you initial overlap during the race, that's for certain. But if you can't make your car go up the circuits quick enough, you are going to find yourself outpaced on the corner exits. Lifting off the throttle there, pushing to the left-hand side. Touches the curbing just a little bit and now gets heavily over the curbing to the inside. Onto the brakes. A little bit of wobble from both cars ahead. Smooth line here from Fry as he now heads up towards back straight again. The slipstream is going to help out here as we head now towards the chicane. Stephen Fry definitely lifting off there, you heard him just back off the throttle just a little bit on his lap. This is Kev Aylett. Aylett now is running around in the Pro-Am class. He's doing quite well in the championship. We hope to move up a little bit more than he currently is, because he took his second win in class at Sebring. He was fighting for a potential overall win. He was doing a very good job in that one. He ended up finishing third overall in the first race at Sebring. He really had pace there. He'll be hoping to demonstrate some similar pace here today. Of course, he's won it before. That was at Portimao in again in the opening race of the day. Anthony Lammer, currently the fastest man on the board, but we have only seen 10 lap times. 11 lap times now as more drivers go across the line. We head through the final banking, and what is Kev Aylett going to do as he heads up towards the timing line? Can he find his way nicely up the order? Carl Hardy, championship leader in the Pro-Am, standing 21st overall at the moment. Kev Aylett goes the slowest overall, not a quick lap on that one. In fact, it looks like that was not a representative lap time for him at all, as Kim Borkland is heading around now, and Borkland was the fastest in practice. He is just a few points off of Dan Mould in the Pro Championships now the drop races have been applied. So can Borkland find his way onto pole position for a third time this season? Apart from Arthur Thurtle, he is the only other driver to get a multiple pole position this season. We've seen Thurtle do it twice, we've seen Borkland do it twice, we've seen Mould and Downing do it once. Can Borkland go for 3 here? He comes through the final turn and he's going to come across the line. Less than 5 minutes to go in this session already. We still have a number of drivers without lap times, but across the line comes Kim Borkland. What is it going to be? It's second fastest, less than a tenth off of Anthony Lammer, but Dan Mould decides he's going to go even quicker there. Big slide through turn number 1 is not going to help him out. And Stephen Fry, with time found, goes into 5th position overall. Showing on the left-hand side there, that red background around the number, showing he's that amateur driver. The next highest amateur driver is nailed down in 15th position. There are a number of spots between them right now. Logan McKinsey goes to the top. Are we going to see another new pole sitter here today as McKinsey gets through turn number 2, pushes it wide here, nice and wide, over that green turf, that's absolutely fine to do, and over that curbing, just run it as hard as you can on the exit as well to push it nice and hard. Well, as we come now to the bottom end of the circuit, this is going to be interesting in the opening few laps. Drivers going to go side by side to try and find any position they can on the early stage. McKinsey at the moment 7,000ths of a second clear on Dan Mould. A big amount of curb from the driver ahead of him there, unsettling the car. McKinsey stays off that sausage curb and stays away from the next curb as well. A couple of new drivers racing here today. We've got Chesney Vanderbroek down in 24th position, being one of those drivers that is heading out there for the first time today. Sydney Hard sitting 22nd position right now, has won that class race, won the first class race of the season, yet to repeat that feat, down in 22nd position in class. Lammer goes even faster out front as Borkland's into second. Can McKinsey find time here? 0.3 of a second back, following the 502 machine of Sydney Hard, who sits just ahead on circuit here. This toe is going to be helping. Is it going to be the 0.3 of a second? McKinsey needs driver ahead, dives into pit lane and across the line goes Logan McKinsey. Is it an improvement on that lap? It's a 43.716, so it is an improvement, but nowhere near the improvement that they would have wanted, as we now watch once again Borkland here, just a 1/10 of a second off of Anthony Lammer. Lammer could go for their first pole position this season. 2 minutes left on the clock. We'll be seeing drivers heading on to their last qualifying laps right about now. which means that they'll be wanting to push as hard as they can to see if they can find any space whatsoever. 31 drivers with lap times, 3 without. We don't see Samuel Spall or Jeff Saunders out on circuit, but both of them in the pit lane ready for racing. Luke Jones is out on track. He is without a valid lap time at the moment as well. So 34 drivers preparing to go into the first race of the day. Borkland is preparing to finish his current flying lap and see if he can go faster than a 43.435. Can he do so as he comes across the timing line from Kim Borkland? Can he beat it? It's a 43.319, and that is an astonishing lap time from Kim Borkland, placing him on provisional pole position potentially for a third time this season. Anthony Lammer just up ahead is continuing to run around as well, as is Logan McKenzie. Dan Mould is down pit lane, will not improve here. Arthur Thurtle slows down and moves inside in 5th position. Scotton also racing for the first time this season in 6th position. Daniel Downing here in 7th position, looking to find time. Downing taking the pole at Portimao. Can he find a significant amount of time it would be needed? And he decides, no thank you, that's not going to be for me. This, though, just passing, is Stephen Fry, and that's an interesting line to take from Fry, but it looks like we will see Kim Borkland on pole position here for the 3rd time this season around Zandvoort this time. Qualifying comes to a close, and it will be Kim Borkland on pole position for this one. We will get ourselves our grid in just 1 moment's time as we wait for the session to head along. And that is the 3rd pole position for Kim Borkland here. So let's see if we can get our grid up then for the first of 2 races today. Kim Borkland will start race number 1 from pole position ahead of Anthony Lammer. Logan McKenzie will start in 3rd, and Dan Mould will start this one in 4th position. Arthur Thurtle will start in 5th ahead of Jaden Scotton. Daniel Downing will start in 7th. Ronald DeYoung, the fastest Pro-Am, will start in 8th ahead of Tony Walker and Demis Titular. Cooper Akers will start in 11th ahead of John Brown. Stephen Fry, the fastest amateur driver, will start in 13th ahead of Carl Hardy. Stuart Gibbons will be in 15th with Mahan Kodeman in 16th position. Deck Crowther will start this one in 17th ahead of Ryan Stringer. Daniel Lewis will start in 19th. Kev Aylett in 20th. Fraser Geraghty will start in 21st. A string of amateur drivers here. Vaughan Mayo will start in 22nd ahead of Thomas Coombe and Chesney Vandenbroek. Then we will see Vegard Olsen-Leah in 25th position, Andrew Lovesey in 26th position, Sydney Hards in 27th, headed J.B. Dejay, Paul Hurley in 29th, Scott Malcolm in 30th, Angie Littler in 31st, headed Jeff Sanders in 32nd, Samuel Spall started in 33rd, and Luke Jones from the back of the field. We prepare ourselves for a 12-lap race there or thereabouts it's going to be. We have 20 minutes of racing action coming your way for the first race of the day. We will then get a second race of 25 minutes just after that one, and that will probably be about a 14-lap race. But the drivers prepare themselves for racing here as they all lined up and eager to go on the grid. Borkland on the right-hand side of our screen, starting this one from pole position, the 3rd time this season he has found himself fastest in qualifying, and he is going to have Lammer just behind. They prepare themselves. 20 minutes on the clock. They are going to be revving their engines, waiting for the lights to go out just as much as we are. We're going to see the smoke kick out to the back of a number of cars as they get off the line and head up towards turn number 1 here. It is going to be side by side towards the front of the lead. Lammer to the inside of Borkland, and Lammer is going to make that move. A tiny little bit of contact, but Lammer is into the lead here. McKenzie looking to try and get through for second as well. It's side by side between Mould and Thurtle behind. Mould on the outer line, Thurtle on the inside line. They're 3 wide, but they're going to settle themselves down on the exit with McKenzie ahead of Mould. Off onto the grass there was Jaden Scotton trying to get past Arthur Thurtle. They run side by side, and they are going to continue doing that As we head towards the bottom end of the circuit, they settle themselves down with Scotto ahead. Tony Walker gets the inside of Daniel Downing there, and they manage to make their way through. Scott Malcolm has picked up a penalty on the opening lap of this race, and it looks like we have seen Andrew Lovesey having a something happen to him that has sent him down and out of this one as well. Still running around, but towards the back of the field now. Andy Littler has just had an issue as well, it looks like, as he falls down the order with a number of positions lost for him. Thomas Mayo to the inside of Thomas Kuhn. Torborn Mayo to the inside of Thomas Kuhn there. That is for fourth in class as they run side by side up towards the chicane now. It is going to be Mayo on the inside, and it is going to swap back across then. And position swapped for then Kuhn down to 26th position, back up towards the front. Then Lama has had an excellent start to this race, moving from second into the lead, and will hold that lead as they head onto the second lap of this race. It is going to be side by side behind Tony Walker. On the outside, Daniel Downing looking to the inside here, heavy onto the brakes. We saw this move work on the opening lap for the lead. It's going to work again, this time for 8th position. Daniel Downing moving through as Falkland retakes the lead up front. That came out of nowhere because they were not side by side heading into that corner. So Falkland has managed to make that move, and we're going to see if we can quickly catch what has happened to that one. I didn't want that to happen, as it is side by side, and Falkland's just got the speed on the exit and then holds it on that wider line, and that's exactly where he's going to want to be, because it's where you get the speed. It's where you get the speed on that outside line. So great run for Falkland there, as there's a number of drivers into the ground. What on earth? That was Australia. Yeah. Let's have a look what's happened there. Whoa, huge crash going ahead. A lot of cars involved in that one. A lot of cars into the wall. What has happened to Olsen Leah here? Side by side contact, and it's a spin into the wall. A shoot. Whoa. I think that is the biggest TCR crash I have seen on iRacing. My word. Again, very fortunate this is virtual racing, because that could have gone very badly indeed. It's side by side for the lead once more. Lama on the outside of Falkland as it heads up towards turn number 1. Lama leads across the line. Falkland to the inside, and here comes Logan McKenzie. It's 3 wide. Logan McKenzie to the inside. Gets to move past Falkland. Can he find the speed on the exit on Lama? Falkland's trying to get there, back in there, and won't be able to quite get a nudge in, but he tries. That's going to be McKenzie sideways. Falkland up, down Mould into third, but Anthony Lama is going to be back into the lead of that one after 3 wide into turn 1. An audacious move from McKenzie, who's not happy with that, flashing his lights up towards Falkland there. But they continue that around. Scott Malcolm still with that penalty to serve. Will have to visit pit lane very soon, as we continue just to catch up on what has happened here. Dennis Titchener's down to 31st position as well. Some issues with that. It was just getting caught up in that wreck that we saw, where we saw the car of Olsen Leah end up on their side. It was just a lot happening in that moment. A number of cars getting caught up. In fact, I think there were about 6 cars that may have been involved in that wreck that have all had to go down pit lane for damage, or had to tow back to pit lane due to the fact that they weren't on their wheels anymore. This is Thomas Kuhn chasing down Mail. We saw this fight go over before, and it was Mail who came out on top. That's Dejay behind, looking to try and get involved in this fight potentially. Luke Jones and Andy Littler swap positions behind as Jones, well, I know, was that Littler off the circuit? It was Littler off the circuit. It's returned to the circuit, up ahead though. Back towards the front, towards turn number 1, and that leading train of 6 drivers, all pro drivers in that leading train of 6, have kept themselves single file this time around, as Ryan Stringer leads a train of a couple of cars behind as well. He's sitting 4th at the moment in class, 12th overall, has Daniel Lewis and the Pro-Am Championship leader, Carl Hardy, chasing behind at the moment. Ronald de Jong is currently leading the Pro-Am class, has yet to take a class victory for de Jong, so will he be able to achieve that today? Lammer is also on task for his first win of the season as well. Out front, if he can keep championship contenders, Borkland and Mould behind. Borkland and Mould, 1st and 2nd in the Pro Championship, with Borkland a few points behind, so we'll be wanting to outdo Mould here. Borkland's all over the rear of Lammer. Are we going to see an overtaking opportunity open up towards the chicane? The inside line is great on the early part of the corner, of course. The outside line turns back into the inside line. So sticking on the outside may be the better line to take. But right now, these drivers not taking any lines different from each other. But Borkland chasing down behind at the moment as we head through the final turn. Mould about a second back off of this at the moment as Lammer swims to the right, swings to the left, tried to break some toe. It's 2/10 between them as they get onto the brakes. No overtaking happening there, and an overtake happening behind though, potentially, as there were some drivers getting close to each other behind. As Kodeman also getting close to Akers there. Kodeman wanting to get a good result as well as Cooper Akers, both of them sitting in class podium positions right now. Ryan Stringer just behind, about 1.5 seconds. 2 different lines there on the exit, but that wider line again. You just get the faster run on the exit there if you are on the top of that banked corner. So Akers getting the speed on the exit over Kodeman. Back down to 2/10 of a second between the leading two. That's a big side. Dan Mould has fallen to 6th, by the way. I just noticed that's the change that happened on last lap, and I will see if I can throw back to when that happened, if I am able to, as it looked like it happened potentially out of the final turn. This is the overtake that saw Dan Mould, championship contender, lose it down from 3rd position. Slow there. Is it potential slowdown? That was a really slow run from Dan Mould, and he loses a number of positions. I think Dan Mould had a slowdown there, definitely. The way that he just moved over to the side, has no speed on there. It has to be a slowdown there. As Borkland has lost out to 0.6 of a second here to Lammer, who has put in a great lap that time around. We're almost halfway through this race now. End of this lap should mark the halfway point in this race as well, as Scotton looking to try and move up the order. First race of the season for him. He's chasing down Arthur Thurtle for a 4th position result. McKinsey was fighting for that lead before, of course, but after going 3 wide, fell down a little bit. We'll be hoping to try and find his way back into a fight for the lead. He's got 1.3 seconds gap that he's going to need to find that, as Akers and Kodeman once again go side by side, but Kodeman going low on the banking, and just like before, that low line is not going to give you the speed on the exit. It gives you the initial overlap, it gives you the initial position, but on the long run, it's just not going to work out. Kodeman actually losing so much time, about a second to Akers here, has Stringer just behind now. And this is for class position. Obviously, they're taking their points from overall results, but it is for a class position, so it does mean something, as Scotton and Mould are fighting it out just up ahead as well for 5th position in this race. Mould behind Scotton once more. Is he going to go for the move up towards the chicane? He certainly swings it to the right-hand side, gets back onto the racing line, though. Not enough. Well, no overlap at all, and you definitely need an overlap there. A little bit of gravel being kicked up by Thurtle. Mould onto the grass on the exit, trying to push as hard as he can to find the speed, and Mould could have an opportunity to move back into 5th position here as we come through the final turn. The slipstream is really going to play into Mould's effect here as we head up towards the timing line once more. Scott Malcolm looks like he has had a potential issue down in 7th in class, as Mould moves to the inside. It's side by side between Downing and De Jong as well behind. That is for overall position as Downing gets past De Jong. Scotton holds on to Mould. Is he going to be able to keep it in? He does. There's no contact like we saw earlier on in the race for McKinsey. Mould goes low, and he goes low just at the right point in the corner. That he does find a little bit of speed, but there's no space to get past Scotton, and Mould is still holding on to 6th position, wanting to move up the order. 0.2 of a second once more between Lama and Borkland, as Borkland's returned the gap back to what it was before he dropped off, and Mould! A huge slide! Was there potential contact there? But Mould, a massive slide there. What happened? Was there contact ahead? Was it just a mistake? It's slower line from Scotton. There was a slight nudge there, but really there was nothing that Scotton could have done, because really, in that, Scotton had to come back on track, because otherwise it would have been a run onto the grass. But does keep it going. Now down to 8th position with a big gap to Ronald de Jong, who is leading that pro Amfield. Back to 0.3 of a second here. Borkland pushing hard to close down on Lama, but Lama is at the moment just finding a little bit more pace to stay ahead as we head into what should be the back 5 of this race. Up towards turn number 1. The gap comes down to about a 1/4 of a second between them. 2 different lines there. The wider line for Lama, the tighter line for Borkland, and that has put Borkland right onto the rear end here. Can he find another slightly different line, as that is deep from Borkland? A lower line from Lama, potentially catching Borkland out in that one, and moves through. Lama moves ahead once more with a gap of half a second. Back to this trainer drive zone. This is for second in the Pro-Am class. 9th overall, Akers, Codeman and Stringer. And that is amateur leader Stephen Fry in 12th position. Chesley Vandenbroek has done a great result in the moment as well, sitting in second in his first race of the season. So he's also running a really good race. But Stephen Fry so far, 2 races completed, 2 races won. This is his 3rd race he is competing in. Can he make it 3 for 3 here? Top 15 are going to be reversed, of course. So Stephen Fry will be quite close towards the front of the reverse. If Chesley Vandenbroek can just gain 1 more position, we could see an amateur driver on pole position for the second race of the day. That was Ryan Stringer running slightly wide onto the grass there, and losing a little bit of time to Codeman. Borkland back up on the rear end of Lama here. It's 0.4 of a second. The slipstream going to close Borkland in. Is it going to run slightly differently this time? Is it going to end up the same, with Lama just finding the speed on the exit of the banked corner up towards the braking zone here? 6 minutes left on the clock. 4 laps should do it to the end. Through turn number 1 they go. It is remaining about the same there as they continue heading through in their fight. Let's go back towards this fight going on behind. In fact, Dejay and Jones are going at it. They're going at it for 19th position. They've got Torbor Mayo just behind as well. Dejay is on the inside here. Jones on the outside line. Up towards turn number 1. A late break from Jones, trying to carry that outside line for 19th position. Gets the car in the right place and makes that move. Dejay has to drop behind and tries to sneak another move just up the inside. In fact, he is going to have the outside line now and the speed. 3 wide's not going to happen there as Mayo gets close to the rear end, but that is a hold from Dejay on that outside line, the lower line from Nuke Jones. It just doesn't work here, that lower line, not the way to go. Stephen Fry has made his way past Marhan Codeman. Codeman having some potential issue in the fight going on there as we return back towards the lead. 5 minutes on the clock. It is Anthony Lama still ahead. Borkland obviously got that pole position, but did not take the lead on the first lap of the race. It immediately went to Lama, and I'm looking back at previous races here, Dan Mould is the only driver to convert pole position into a win in the first race of the day. That was all the way back at round 2. If Borkland can do it here, it'll be only the second time we've seen the pole man from qualifying take the win in the first race of the day. Can Borkland do that? He is close to the rear end of Anthony Lammer here, but he still just isn't able to make a move. Not quite close enough. Lammer just faster where it counts to put himself further ahead, that by the time they get into the parts of the circuit where Borkland's closing in because of the slipstream, there's nothing he can do. Like now, there's nowhere he can really go to make this overtake unless he makes an audacious move to the inside. He's not going to do that. He's going to stay behind. 1.5 tenths of a second behind at the moment, both pushing over to the curbing on the left-hand side. Is still less than 2 tenths of a second between them as they run around, and this is exactly what Borkland needed. Goes to the inside of Lammer. Borkland tries to make that move on the inside. It's not going to quite work out as Lammer's able to hold the speed, but it is going to put Lammer onto the tighter line in the next corner, which will give Borkland a better line on the exit, potentially more speed here up towards the chicane as we're heading up towards the last couple of laps in this race. We head into the chicane. Borkland heading the sausage curb, a lot harder there. Lammer running a bit deeper, and that has allowed Borkland to be right onto the rear here as we go onto the main straight. This is going to be the best opportunity Borkland has right in this race so far to regain the lead. Up towards the timing line, towards penultimate lap of the race. Lammer moves to the right-hand side. Borkland follows behind. Is Borkland going to move to the left to go on the outside line? He certainly is. He's going to brake earlier though, trying potentially to get the switch back on the exits. Lammer is going to try and keep the speed, gets the gravel. Borkland moves to the right-hand side. Is he going to stick a nose in? He certainly is. They're side by side. Borkland's got the better line on the outside here, but Lammer pushes it hard, pushes it right onto the racing line. That Borkland just isn't going to be able to carry the speed there. Once again, Borkland is stuck behind as we head down towards the back end of the circuit, but does look a little bit towards a tighter line than Lammer. Doesn't go for that overtake right now. McKinsey is seeing this happen ahead and could have fingers crossed, hoping that something might happen between them. Lammer looking for his first win this season. Borkland looking for his second. Borkland in the fight for the Pro Championship as we head on to the back straight as Borkland goes towards the inside of Lammer. Both drivers running an extremely tight line there. With just over a minute left on the clock, next lap is going to be the white flag lap. With Lammer still ahead of Borkland. Borkland has got to think about his exit through the chicane and into the final 2 corners to try and potentially make that move on Lammer. Lammer surely is going to go defensive once more in this fight, going to the inside as we head on to the final lap of the race. It worked out last lap. I'm sure Lammer is going to be hoping it works out again. Yes, he swings to the right-hand side. The white flag is out. Borkland, will he move to the left once more? He certainly does. Is he going to brake later this time? No. Once again, he brakes early for that switch back across, but this time, Lammer slows it down on the apex, not allowing Borkland to get to the inside. As they fight it up, Borkland dives to the inside and going to slide up to the racing line. There's major contact between the 2 drivers. Kim Borkland is in the lead. Lammer, with major front end damage, is not going to be able to carry the speed here. As Borkland, it looks like he may have potential damage on the exit. That is going to be major damage for Lammer. Lammer was in the fight for the win, is now out of it, completely dropping down the order as Borkland runs around. We saw the rear end get loose, but it looks like Borkland is able to control it. But could this potentially be McKinsey taking advantage here? Because if Borkland has major back end damage, which it looks like he does, he's not going to be able to run quickly, and Logan McKinsey could win this race here. There is potential for it. You can see that Borkland's car crabbing a little bit. How hard is he going to be able to push through the final 2 corners? As McKinsey is now just half a second behind. Who is going to be able to win this one? Can Borkland hold it with that damage? Can McKinsey find the time as we head out through the final turn? But Kim Borkland, contact for the lead, moves through and takes the win. Ahead of McKinsey, Thurtle takes home a podium. Scotton takes home 4th ahead of Downing, ahead of Mould. Lammer just takes it home for 8th position. Ronald de Jong wins the Pro-Ams for the first time this season, and Stephen Fry takes his 3rd victory this season as well. But we are going to have another look at that contact in just one moment's time, because it was an interesting one, and I think we do need to have another look at that one. But right now, it is a 2nd win of the season for Borkland, which is just what he needs in the championship rival. Dan Mould down in 6th position. Right, let's have a look at this move once more. Let's see if we can get a slightly different angle of it this time and see what happened there. So this is Lammer ahead, Borkland behind. Borkland goes in deep to the inside. So much speed that it just carries him out. And there is absolutely nowhere that Lammer can go in that one. And Lammer was the one who got most damage. So Borkland coming out of that one fantastically well off compared to Lammer, and you have to wonder who there. Oh, what could Lammer have done? That's the question, because I don't think there's much there that Lammer could have done in that one as the sessions progress, which is why we're just having a moment. We're going to give one more look at that one. But we're going to ride on board here this time with Lammer. Nope, this is not. Let's see if we can get a little bit further back here and ride on board with Lammer. So Lammer has got the speed on the exit here, but Borkland just goes for the dive. And I think it was just carrying too much speed, wanting the win, and suddenly there's a car. That's a shame indeed. It was really nothing that could be done there from Lammer, but that damage almost cost Borkland the win as well. But we will call it on race number 1, prepare ourselves for race number 2 with the top 15 reversed, of course, as I am going to jump across and have a little look-see here at some of the other things that happened there with those results, because we are going to have a look at the overall results at the end of that one. So, Kim Borkland took the win in that one, 4 tenths ahead of Logan McKinsey. Arthur Thurtle coming home in 3rd position. 4th position was Jaden Scotton ahead of Daniel Downing, and Dan Mould coming home in 6th. Great news for Borkland for his championship contention with Dan Mould down in 6th. Ronald de Jong taking his first win of the season in class in 7th. Anthony Lammer came home in 8th, with Cooper Akers and Ryan Stringer rounding out the top 10. As it's decided to be weird. There we go. Stephen Fry took home the win once more in the amateur class ahead of Mahan Kodeman. Carl Hardy took home 13th ahead of Daniel Lewis, and Kev Aylett came home in 15th. Chesney Vandenbroek came home that one in 16th position ahead of Paul Hurley. Thomas Coombe coming home in 18th, and JB Dejay in 19th position. 20th was to Luke Jones. 23rd position was for Torben Mayo. Jeff Saunders came home in 22nd, Andy Littler in 23rd, and Sydney Hards in 24th. Scott Malcolm finished that one in 25th position with John Brown in 26th. Demis Titchler in 27th, ahead of Tony Walker. Fraser Garrity and Dec Crowther down in 30th position. Vegard Olsen-Lear in 31st, ahead of Stuart Gibbons, Andrew Lovesey, and Samuel Spall. Of course, a lot of drivers going out in that one following that big pile-up. That involved a number of drivers that we ended up seeing, obviously one of them on their side out of that one. So it was a number of incidents towards the start of that race and towards, well, it just took a lot of people out, which was a real shame. In fact, I'm just seeing if we can find where that happened once more as I'm trying to find my way through. You can see here huge amounts of contact ahead, and this is where it all goes wrong for Vegard Olsen-Lear. Touch into the wall and a huge wreck in that one, and that was all the way back on lap number 2, so that was very early doors in that one. I just wanted to say that all of our drivers are okay after that one. Potentially broken thumbs, but luckily, nothing more serious than that, I think, because that was a big one. Virtual racing has its benefits sometimes, and the safety of sitting in your rig rather than being behind a car that went flying in that manner is certainly one of those benefits. We prepare ourselves then for the second race of the day. It's coming up in just a moment's time, and we are going to see then what is going to happen in the second race of the day. It is a slightly longer race. It's 25 minutes. That will be on the clock for this one. The top 15 are going to be reversed. We will talk you through the grid once we get across into the second race. But can Kim Borkland find his way back to the front in the next one, and hopefully with a little less contact? Ronald de Jong will be hoping to try and repeat his race win that he got for the first time in class in those Pro-Ams. And Stephen Fry, can he go back-to-back once again? The only other driver to go, two other drivers have won whole weekends before. Scott Malcolm did it at Brands Hatch, won both races in the amateur class. Scott Malcolm did it at Interlagos, winning both those races in the amateur class. Lucas Henschel did it, winning both races at Portimao. Stephen Fry did it, winning both races at Red Bull Ring. The only 2 rounds we have not seen a double win in the AM class was at round 1 at Road Atlanta and at round 6 at Sebring. Apart from that, we have seen the amateur class have the driver who wins race number 1 go to win race number 2. Right, we are preparing ourselves here for the grid for the second race of the day. 15 laps expected for this one, and Stephen Fry finds himself in a brilliant position in the amateur class. Kev Aylitz, however, finds himself in the perfect position. He starts this one in pole position ahead of Daniel Lewis. Carl Hardy is in 3rd ahead of Marhan Kodeman. Stephen Fry will start in 5th ahead of Ryan Stringer. We then see Cooper Akers starting this one in 7th. Anthony Lammer will be in 8th position, hoping for a better end to the race. This time, Ronald de Jong will start in 9th ahead of Dan Mole. Daniel Downing will start in 11th ahead of Jaden Scotton in 12th. 13th, we are Thurtle. 14th for Logan McKenzie, and Kim Borkland will start the reverse grid in 15th position. Chesney Vandenbroek just missing out on the reverse grid pole there. Will start in 16th ahead of Paul Hurley. Thomas Kuhn will start in 18th position. JB Dejay will start in 19th position ahead of Luke Jones. Mayo will start in 21st position. Jeff Saunders in 22nd ahead of Andy Littler in 23rd. Sydney Hards will start this one in 24th position. Scott Malcolm from 25th ahead of John Brown. Demis Titchler will start in 27th. Tony Walker from 28th ahead of Fraser Garrity in 29th. And Dec Crowther in 30th position. Vegard Olsen-Lear will be hoping to finish this one on the wheels this time, with Stuart Gibbons starting in 32nd. Andrew Lovesey will start from 33rd, with Samuel Spall from 34th on the grid. Kev Aylett, Daniel Lewis, Carl Hardy, Marhan Kodeman, all Pro-Ams from 2 rows of the grid. It isn't until we see 8th position of Anthony Lammer that we see a pro driver. Stephen Fry, the amateur, is in 5th. We are going to get pole position away from Kev Aylett on the right-hand side of our screens. He had a great result in the first race of the day at Sebring. We'll be hoping for a great result here in the second race of the day. 25 minutes on the clock here as we prepare to get going for race number 2. Massive amount of wheel spin before we get the launch, and as we go, a nice launch from the lead for Kev Aylett and moves across to the right-hand side to go defensive straight away. And where is it going to go wrong behind, or are they going to find it all clean? A little bit of gravel out ahead, but the drivers all make their way through turn number 1. Logan McKenzie on the start has moved down to 15th position. Contact with Borkland. Borkland keeps it low this time and will remain in 15th, but could now be under attack from Paul Hurley, who's got some speed on the exit and goes side by side from the move. They're side by side ahead as well, settling themselves down. Hurley on the outside of Borkland. Borkland will hold on to the 15th position at the moment. Scott Malcolm gets past Jeff Saunders just behind, as well as Chesney Vandenbroek and Thomas Coombs. Swap positions, there's contact ahead, and that was Logan McKenzie. That was a big lock-up, almost going into another driver. I think there was a minor bit of contact, but nothing that led to any drivers going off. McKenzie going extremely defensive here on Borkland, though, as they go onto the back straight. As Mahan Codeman has made his way past Stephen Fry now down to 6th position. Knocking on the rear end of Codeman, though, because he has Anthony Lammer just behind, and Lammer will be wanting to make up for that one. Lammer was on task to take his first win of the season. Can he do it in race number 2 here? He's in a perfect position to do that, but he does have the Pro Championship leader Dan Mould just behind him here. Chesney Vandenbroek gets around the outside of Thomas Coombs. He solidifies 17th position in this race, and Dan Mould could potentially go for a move on Lammer here. Looks like he was about to dive up the inside, doesn't make that attempt, as Borkland in 15th, still trying to get past McKenzie, as Mould has got Lammer on the exit of the first turn, and it is going to be side by side with Stephen Fry ahead. Mould on the outside, and to the inside goes Anthony Lammer. That inside drop down from Lammer not going to work out for him, and in fact he is now being swarmed by Pro-Am drivers, and the car's off. Hopefully going to keep it out of the way. That's Cole Hardy, and he does keep it out of the way. No one else getting involved in that one, but Pro-Am Championship leader Cole Hardy into the wall with a very heavy hit. This is side by side between Anthony Lammer and Stephen Fry. Lammer makes the move through and is now a second off of Dan Mould, and will be wanting to try and get through there. Ryan Stringer has gone off and has had some issues falling down the order, as Arthur Thurtle holds on ahead of Borkland, as McKenzie has made that overtake to go through. Borkland up to 13th, but that is due to the instance ahead. He is struggling on this reverse grid, starting from 15th position in the race. Cooper Akers going for the move past McKenzie, couldn't do it, as McKenzie just carried the better speed around the outside. In fact, didn't look like he fought that one too hard. Side by side ahead, Daniel Downing on the rear end of Stephen Fry there, looking to potentially try and get a move, but is actually slowed Downing down, and Daniel Downing now under attack from Jaden Scotton. Moves to the right hand side, that could potentially be into the wall from Scotton. He gets back across. Oh, that could have been disastrous with the cars coming through behind. Up towards turn number 1, Scotton on the outside of Downing, can't carry the speed, and in fact Ronald de Jong looking to get involved in that one. De Jong in 4th position in class right now. Could he take a potential double victory in class in that Pro-Am field? It has not happened so far this season. No driver has been able to take a win in the first and second race of the day in the Pro-Am class. Today could change that, but only if one of De Jong is able to find his way through. The rest of the field and up to the Pro-Am drivers that lead the way right now, as I finally think I fixed the timing issues as I was having problems with that. There we go. We have, in fact, got the timing now. So I do apologise for not being able to get that up sooner for you. Arthur Thurtle here, chasing down Logan McKenzie. They are in 10th, 11th and 12th with Portland behind. And Portland is going to try and do something, but that's McKenzie to the inside of Ronald de Jong for 9th position. They run side by side. De Jong is going to try and hold it on the inside up towards the chicane. In fact, he backs out of it. And here comes Arthur Thurtle, squeezing to the inside. De Jong goes onto the gravel, and Portland says, thank you very much, Thurtle, for making that move. I'm just going to tuck it up the inside here, and now Portland could have the overtake on Thurtle, but Thurtle does keep it to the inside. They run very close together as Portland gets onto the gravel. The tighter line here for Thurtle is going to help him out and help him hold on to 11th position at the moment, but Portland surely is going to try and make the move through. Thurtle goes defensive. Portland back to the outside. A huge lock-up up ahead and into the gravel for Jaden Scotton. That's a shame. He finds the escape route though, comes back on and side by side with Dejay. Dejay is going to make that move. Is there going to be contact? Because here comes Luke Jones on the outside, and Scotton just sticks to the inside and allows that position to be taken off of him. He doesn't want to get into contact after returning back onto the circuit, so allows that to happen for now as Anthony Lammer and Martin Kodeman swap positions. It looks like, no, it looks like might have just been a timing issue. I said I'm having some timing issues right now and I don't know what's going on with it, so I do apologise. But Daniel Lewis leading the way ahead of Kev Aylett right now. As actually that changed pretty recently, didn't it, for P1? In fact, it did happen very recently indeed. This is how Daniel Lewis moved into the lead of the race past Kev Aylett. Aylett was doing a great job leading for the first few laps, but on the 4th lap of asking, it looks like he has made a slight mistake. A little bit of grass collected before the corner. He's done a big slide. He holds the slide, but Daniel Lewis does make that move through and moves to the lead. And Lewis now will be just trying to pull a gap over Kev Aylett and Dan Mould, who is coming up quick with Anthony Lammer in tow. Lammer is going to be trying extremely hard to take the win here. If Mould was to take the win around this circuit, it'll be his 6th win of the season. If Lammer was to find that victory, it will be his first. Lammer, fastest man out there right now, as he put in a 43.982. It was a 44.0 from Dan Mould. In fact, it was slightly quicker from Dan Mould, but he went off track, which is why it didn't pick up as a fast lap. It was a 43.965 last lap. Ronald de Jong falls down the order, as does Luke Jones. As it looks like both of them down and out. What has happened here to the Pro-Am Race 1 winner? That's the question, because Luke Jones and Ronald de Jong were involved in that one. It looks like de Jong has had contact there. Huge man's contact with Kim Borkland. Borkland involved in another incident here, and this is a hard one to judge once more, but Borkland trying to move up the order. He's pushed it to the inside, he goes wide. There's no, do you know what? De Jong couldn't get any wider than that, in my opinion. He couldn't get any further off circuit than he was. He was already completely over the curbing. Again, my comments do not reflect SRL at all. They are my own comments that I make, and therefore take them with a pinch of salt. I am not a steward for a very good reason. I do not need to make things on excellence like that. However, I will have my opinion piece up here. It's Daniel Lewis leading the way to Kev Aylett, flashing lights again from Aylett, as Mould is on the rear end looking to try and take these positions away. Anthony Lammer has used this to his advantage. Mould has been unable to get through the Pro-Ams, and therefore Lammer has got onto the rear end here and could have an opportunity at making this move. We come down now towards 15 minutes left of asking as Stuart Gibbons and Thomas Coombs swap positions in 22nd and 23rd overall. Stephen Fry holding 6th position in this race, can we say. He started this one in 5th. in the race. He is down to 6th, but he has only lost 1 position in that amateur class. He is running extremely quickly indeed as Anthony Lama looking at Dan Mould ahead, thinking this could be the opportunity. I lost it in race 1. Contact, that was not my fault. Could I do it here? Dan Mould's like, I don't really want you behind me, Lama, right now. I want to put a car between us. So he dies at the inside of Kev Aylett. It's going to put Aylett on the tighter line as Mould tries to run the wider line, but Lama is going to try and now get into this fight. It's battle for 3rd position in the race between the 2 pro drivers, but Mould holds it ahead of Anthony Lama at the moment. They get through the chicane. It is Lewis, Aylett, Mould, Lama continuing to run out in the top 4. They are battling for the overall podium, and the Pro-Ams at the moment leading the way as we head across the line. This will be 9 laps to go with my calculations. So as they come across the line here, they will be pushing to try and find the positions. Mould, particularly with Lama now all over his rear, stuck behind Kev Aylett and Daniel Lewis. Now we know that Aylett can drive a really good defensive drive. We saw it at Sebring. He held on to 2nd all race long in race number 1, losing it to 3rd on just the last lap of the race. Can Mould dispatch him a bit quicker than that in this one? Mould was obviously one of the drivers stuck behind Aylett in that train back at Sebring, but he did certainly have other drivers to contend with, and right now Lama is not getting too involved in fighting him. He certainly looked up the inside for a moment, but other than that, he's not really gone for the move. Talking about going for a move, here goes Mould to the inside of Aylett. He's going to be on the tighter line here, but if he's got a significant overlap, he could get the position done early doors. It's not going to happen, and it's going to switch back into Aylett's routes here. Mould going to hold the outside line, gets it back in behind Aylett, looking for a potential switch back to get to the left-hand side of the chicane. It's not going to be enough with the speed on the exit, that tighter line. Just not working out, and again, Aylett holds on to Mould and Lama. Now, the more these drivers fight, the more Daniel Lewis is able to pull away in the lead of this race. But that is slight grass contact from Aylett. Mould goes to the outside, decides he doesn't want that run that wide line, but he is going to switch it back through the final corner. Mould goes to the inside. Lama is certainly going to follow that through as well. So Kev Aylett holding on 2nd position could be over and done with, or is it going to be over and done with for 3rd, because Lama not able to get that speed there on the exit, and Aylett is going to hold it ahead, but Lama does go for the move to the inside. Aylett is going to have to leave that door open, and Lama pushes it perfectly, leaving room on the outside, but pushes it enough speed to take 3rd position in this race and not lose too much time to Dan Mould ahead, so he doesn't get out of that battle. This is a huge chain of drivers that is led by JB Dejay here. He sits in 13th position. It goes all the way down to Thomas Coombe in 23rd position. All of these drivers extremely tight, less than a second between all of them right now as they run single file, but looking for potential moves to move their way up the order. Jaden Scotton being one of those drivers who will be wanting to try and make the move, as John Brown looking potentially to get past JB to show, as that is Mail with a penalty there. We'll have to visit pit lane to serve. That side-by-side going on behind Tony Walker. It's going to go up the inside of Fraser Garrity here. It's going to be stuck on the outside line as Garrity goes sideways. Minor bit of contact, more contact on the exit. Both of them off the circuit, onto the gravel. Garrity and Walker off track there. And back on. Walker had to deal with a 10-place grid penalty in race 1, and that has not gone the way that he wanted in that fight there. Daniel Downing to the inside of Logan McKenzie, and both of them heavy into the wall. Both drivers are going to be out of this one. Falkland moves up into 8th, Akers into 9th, but that is McKenzie and Downing both out of this one. If we can just catch back on what happened there. That must have been the fright of a lifetime there from just behind. But a huge accident through the final turn as Anthony Lammer is into second with Dan Mould leading the way. This is how that happened as we were watching the accident occur behind. Both Mould and Lammer have dispatched Lewis here up towards turn number 1 as Mould goes to the inside. Lewis onto the gravel ever so slightly here. Mould gets that overlap and here comes Lammer, just dives it. Lammer not waiting for a second invitation, goes for that move and gets into second position, and Lammer now will be pushing hard to try and take the win in this one if he is able to. He was so close to it in race number 1 before contact with Kim Borkland. Borkland diving up the inside of the hairpin, contact between the two of them, put Lammer down the order, placed him into an okay position on the restart. And now he is charging for the lead of the race. That is going to be just ahead. Brown trying to get past. Dejay here does get the overlap on the exit chicane, but now Brown is stuck on the outside. Dejay's got that inside line here, and he's running on that inside line is going to help through the final turn. Definitely some front end damage on Dejay's car, though. You can see the left hand light not working, but he is getting a push from Jaden Scotton behind as Brown moves back behind as Dejay's got the inside line. It's going to be side by side. Dejay on the inside, Brown on the outside, side by side between Scotton and Luke Jones behind, but Dejay holds on to that one. Scotton now on the inside of Luke Jones. Jones is going to be on the tighter line through the banked corner. It's going to give him the initial position, but not the speed on the exit. And in fact, Sydney Hard is going to get involved in that one and move past Luke Jones, as well as Borkland moves up into 7th position and gets past Arthur Thurtle in a move there. And it looks like Arthur Thurtle has had some sort of issue, which is why that has happened. He's on the whiter line and contact with Borkland. He finds his way back straight pretty quickly, but that is another bit of contact that Kim Borkland has been involved in this evening. And he has moved his way up to 7th, but he's not done it in the best way possible. Lammer holding on to about half a second behind Dan Mould here. He's looking, he's studying where he can find the speed over Mould to potentially make that move through. They're going to come across the timing line. 5 laps to go as John Brown gets past Dejay through the chicane this time. Again, in this train of cars, it's just constant back and forth between them as they try to make up positions. And the risk is, in a train like this, you go for an overtake and actually you end up just getting a little bit of tag from the car behind, or you tap the car in front, and that's a lot of positions and lost. You just see how close they all are coming across the timing line. Again, this train going up to 11th position with Dejay on the outside, Brown on the inside, and it looks like John Brown might be able to hold on to 11th this time. Here comes Jaden Scotton to try to the inside into Dejay. It's not going to quite make it there, and is going to have to hold on behind us. This is side by side between Titchler and Gibbons and Jones, and Titchler moves all the way down to 17th position as again Scotton going for the move, but this time to a part of the course we don't often see overtakes being attempted. Scotton on the outside, Dejay on the inside. They have been doing it cleanly, though. They can show you that you can run through that section without any contact, and they have done that perfectly. Scotton getting the position on Dejay, and Sydney Hard taking advantage of the slightly slower JB Dejay here to try and get around the outside. Dejay holds the inside line, though, and will hold on to 13th position right now in this train of drivers. Back to our pro-ams, and we have Chesley Vandenbroek chasing down Vegard Olsen Leah keeping it on the circuit with 4 wheels in this race, which I'm sure they'll be happy about. 5th in class, 25th overall, just a 10th of a second behind to Vandenbroek, who looked to the inside, couldn't quite make that move at the moment, and will have to go again slightly later. Luke Jones on the back of Titchler almost made a move into the chicane, but has to settle down at the moment as this train of drivers, just all of them, getting the toe from the driver ahead. So the benefits of it not as strong as what we have seen in other fights, as Arthur Thirdle makes his way past Pro-Am driver Cooper Akers. Cooper Akers 4th in class, 9th on the circuit, as Arthur Thirdle 5 seconds behind Kim Portland. Portland is closing up to Stephen Fry and Mahan Kodeman here. So could potentially move himself into a top 5. Started 15th on the grid with the top 15 reverse. So we'll be trying to do something in that one as the fight for the Pro-Ams continue, as well as ultimately leads by 0.3 of a second. Goes onto the right-hand side to break the toe, moves back onto the racing line with Vandenbroek just behind. They head into turn number 1. And they still remain settled down. Side by side between Jones and Titchener. Titchener is on the inside this time. And are they going to be able to make it through cleanly? They certainly do. Titchener keeping that overlap, but Jones carrying the speed on the exit says that was over the curbing from Titchener. Unsettled his car, but they keep themselves away from each other. No contact. And Luke Jones holds the position of 9th for the time being. He's going to have the title line. Titchener stuck on the wider line. Could find the speed on the exit though. But right now, that position goes Luke Jones' way as the gap at the front is still between 4 and 5/10 of a second between Mould and Lammer. So Lammer not allowing Mould to pull away. Looking for his worst win of the season. Mould looking for his 6th win of the season here as this massive chain of drivers continues through and heads up towards the 13th lap of asking here, expecting 15 laps. Titchener on the rear end of Jones as Gibbons goes side by side up ahead with JB Dejay. Dejay to the inside line. Gibbons on the outside line. It's side by side with Jones on the inside, Titchener on the outside behind as well. So we go 2 by 2 through turn number 1. Gibbons comes out ahead of Dejay. Jones and Titchener still side by side. Jones on the inside line here. Titchener will get the inside line through the banking, but of course that outside line you can carry more speed on the exit. And Jones will regain 16th position in this one as that is Scotton making his move past John Brown. No, that was Scotton losing out to Sydney Hards perhaps actually in that one. And no, it was certainly with John Brown, and that's because John Brown, what happened there? It looks like it was a nudge from Scotton behind. No, a potential wheel disconnect. That definitely looked like a mechanical failure rather than anything happening between the drivers themselves. It looks like he just went straight on, so a potential wheel disconnect for him there, which would be a shame. The gap between the lead has come down to 0.4 of a second. They go on to the penultimate lap of asking here. So it is still extremely close out the front. Titchener tried to make the move once again past Luke Jones. Has to stay behind at the moment. 2 minutes on the clock, 2 laps to go as these drivers head up towards the final turn on the circuit. It holds on at around 2 to 3 tenths between each of them, but are we going to see any overtaking opportunities? Up towards turn number 1 with drivers getting the toe from those ahead. We head in towards turn number 1 now. Damage on a number of these vehicles, but they're all facing the right way, and they all go through turn number 1 without issues, all single file as well. Anthony Lammer pushing hard here. This is for the fight at the front of the field. Anthony Lammer could have won race number 1. Contact with Kim Portland meant that he didn't. Anthony Lammer could potentially have the win in race number 2, or is it going to go Dan Mould's way for the 6th time this season? We head on to the back of the circuit as Anthony Lammer leads the way, chases Dan Mould behind as we head up towards the chicane. Huge amounts of trains going on once again in the middle parts of this field as we will try and get in a few of these drivers into the commentary booth at the end of this race as well, because there has been a lot to discuss as Vandenbroek trying to get the move past Vegard Olsen Leah in the in the amateur field towards the back. Not able to make that move just yet, as this continues to be a fight for 24th position. As we go on to the final lap of asking, it is Dan Mould leading Anthony Lammer here. Mould is trying to take his 6th win of the season. Anthony Lammer looking for his first win of the season. He took the lead in race number 1 before the end of the first lap. Well, really before the end of the first turn, and he held that all the way towards the end until the contact on the final lap of the race. Dan Mould has found his way to the front of the field here with the reverse grid. Anthony Lammer just 0.2 of a second behind now. Can he find the speed at the end? How hard is he going to be pushing? Because I expect it to be the hardest he has pushed all night long. 0.3 of a second left on the clock here. Sorry, left on the clock, left between them here. It's late at night and my words are getting confused. There's so much that has happened tonight as Dan Mould pulls open the gap to 0.4 once more. Lammer is going to have to get the best chicane of his life for the speed. He gets it to the inside, over the sausage curb, closes that gap down. Is he going to get the speed on the exit? Looking at the infill on the left, Mould has just got the speed coming through before the final 2 turns. It's 0.3 of a second onto the gravel for Anthony Lammer as he pushes just slightly too hard. And for the 6th time this season, Dan Mould is going to take the victory here at Circuit Zandvoort. Anthony Lammer's going to come home in 2nd. Daniel Lewis is going to win the Pro-Am field for the first time this season, and Stephen Fry is going to come home to win the amateur field for the 4th time. Geraghty with a podium on the final lap of this race. The train of drivers comes across to take home their results in this 25-minute race number 2 here, but a 6th win for Dan Mould, a 1st win in class for Daniel Lewis, and a 4th win in class. In all 4 races he has raced this season, Stephen Fry has found his way to the front. That is the 7th round of competition over here at Zandvoort. Let's have a look at the race results following that one. It was Dan Mould who won for the BIS Circuits team, the team championship leaders, the Pro Championship leader. Anthony Lammer coming home just short of his first victory of the year, 0.4 of a second behind Mould. Daniel Lewis came home in 3rd for SRL, ahead of Kev Aylett in 4th position. Kim Borkland took home 5th in that one, with Mahan Kodeman coming home in 6th. 7th was for Stephen Fry, and another win to his name. Arthur Thurtle came home in 8th, added Cooper Akers and Paul Hurley. 11th position in that one went to Jaden Scotton, ahead of Sydney Hards and Stuart Gibbons. JB DeJay came home in 14th position ahead of Luke Jones. Demis Titchler came home in 16th, with Deck Crowther in 17th place. Decent result there from both the Blade drivers, bearing in mind they have just moved themselves into the top 10 of the championship, and then of course you got the Blades in 14th as well. So some good results from the selection teams there. Thomas Croom came home in 18th, ahead of Tony Walker, and Jeff Saunders round out the top 20. 21st position was Andy Littler. Ryan Stringer came home in 22nd, followed by Vegard Olsen Leah, who managed to hold on 0.4 of a second clear of Chesney Vandenbroek. Fraser Geraghty came home in 25th position, with Torburn Mail in 26th. Carl Hardy came home in 27th position, ahead of Ronald de Jong in that one, who obviously had the contact being spun around by Borkland at the same hairpin that Borkland took out Lammer in race number 1. John Brown came home in 29th position, a lap down, as did Scott Malcolm. Logan McKenzie came home in 31st, and Daniel Downing in 32nd. Fraser Geraghty took home 28th in that race, did get a penalty though, so that's why he lost out on the final lap of that one. Right, with the results talked about, let's see who we can pull across here to have a word with after that one, and it looks like we do have Ryan Stringer, who is around and wanting to talk to us. Certainly not the same strong results that we have seen in some previous rounds, but Ryan, it was a bit crazy out there, a lot of fighting going on.
Yeah, it was a bit mental in the race one, and then race two, me and Cole had a little bit of a coming together, and it just put me out of the race.
So there was a good racing, as you say, in race number one. The inverts always create some interesting things that happen. Of course, in both races, we saw a number of huge incidents, and unfortunately for you, just weren't able to find your way through and take the best out of it. But some points to your name, which will help you in the championship, of course, and hopefully going into the future races, you can find yourself towards the front again.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's a bit chaotic with with that big curve bend of like turn 4. Just held me up. Carl had a little bit of a slide in the corner prior, so he's at the inside line, and then he ended up drifting up, and I was drifting to the racing line, and we just cut across each other, and then it was chaos because no one was backing up. So yeah, we had a bit of an issue with everyone just flying through and nearly crashing out more people.
Gonna say it was. We did see a number of incidents through that. As you say, it's the two different racing lines. That tighter line gives you the great speed on entrance, but unless you can get your car up, you're going to be really slow on the exit. And I think that's what a lot of drivers were trying to do there was find their way up the circuit by the exit of their corner. And as you say, it was just cars coming across each other and causing some contact.
Yeah, I wasn't too keen on the track tonight. I just never really thought TCRs would go well here, but it was going alright, and then it wasn't.
So, say that this one wasn't a circuit that you were looking forward to. How about Winton next week? I think one of the tightest circuits I think we could be sending these cars to. Are you looking forward to that one, or do you feel it's another one that's going to be a bit of a crazy one?
I mean, I've done MX5s during the week at Winton, and it's scary as hell. So TCRs with 30 plus of us is going to be even worse. I think it's going to be a good track, but it's way too tight for any side-by-side races.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Hopefully then you'll get a good qualifying result as well then and find yourself towards the front. As you say, it could be a different one to fight. But good luck for next week at Winton, and of course for the final 3 rounds as we head into the back end of this season.
Thank you very much.
And that was Ryan Stringer there. Thank you very much to him for talking to us there. As we'll bring in Dan Mould in that one, winning race number 2 ahead of Anthony Lammer. It wasn't the race number 1, however, you were hoping for. Let's talk about that first before we talk about the success of race number 2. You saw your championship rival there, your contender of Falkland, take the win whilst you were struggling to make your way through the field.
Yeah, first I just want to apologise for being in the chat again, Joe, but nobody else wants to come in here, so I thought I'd jump in. Race 1. Already knew Kim got the pace, having seen the the practice midweek. So yeah, I knew I was off it. So it was just a case of trying to stick with him and Anthony, and then I just got one of those slow downs, which put me a bit further down. And then, to be fair, I was having a real good battle with Jaden, and then I just went for a move down the inside to show me nose, and I think his back end just come out and just clobbered me. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know what I was doing with my pedals to try and save it from hitting the wall, but it seemed to work. There was no skill involved, it was just pure pushing and pulling on my pedals and a lot of luck. So
well, luck comes into it, but you did get a number of good saves across the 2 chats.
Yeah. I was happy with 6. Keep the championship healthy. Obviously, Kim's now brought it a lot closer, I think. But yeah, it was another great night racing for myself. Like I said, with Jaden in race 1, and then on to race 2, I had a unbelievable few laps racing against Kev. And just he wasn't moving, and big respect to him. And then I think he had a little mistake on one of the exits, and I just got my nose at the inside of him. And then Dan Lewis decided to let Anthony come through as I passed him, which then just gave me 10 minutes of just pure pressure. But yeah, I was thankful to take the win in race 2. I think I needed that one.
I would say, I think that really helped you out with your championship fight with Borkland, coming home in 5th in that one. Of course, there was a couple of bits of contact throughout both races with Borkland that would be deemed questionable. However, with the provisional results, a win here definitely going to be helpful for you, that's for certain. Heading across to Winton next week then, an extremely tight circuit. It's going to be a tricky one to find your way up the order. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I've raced Winton a few times in big leagues with big grids as well, and it is very tight, and you've got to be really composed and patient, and just kind of just try and pick off chances that come along and not try and force anything. A bit like this track really. Just not as committed, I think, as Zandvoort. But you know, if everyone can race smart, and as I keep trying to educate and race respectfully, you know, I'm pretty sure we'll have another good night. As always in any league, Joe, incidents are going to happen in any league, in real life or on a sim. So, you know, we can't stop that, but we can try to minimise it as much as possible. But
of
another
course,
healthy field. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's as you say, it's a very big field as well, and I think the racing that we see is always, from the start to the end, always something going on, and I think that just shows how amazing this is. And in a circuit that's going to be extremely tight, I think we're going to see great racing once again, side by side, through some difficult corners. And I think we're going to see some amazing action. 3 more rounds left to go. We've got Winton and then 2 brilliant German circuits of Hockenheimring and Nürburgring as we head into the back end of the season. Good luck. We're trying to hold it at the top of that standings. You've got the pressure coming on from behind.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks again, mate.
And that was Dan Moll taking the win there in the second and final race of the day. 6th win of the season for him in the Pro class. Daniel Lewis taking his first win of the season in the Pro-Am class in that one, and Stephen Fry taking his 4th win in as many races for him this season. So Fry finding a lot of pace out there. We will be back then next week as we head across to Winton for the national circuit on the November 28th to catch up with all of the previous rounds. Make sure that you check out the SRL's YouTube channel if you want to catch up on the extended highlights from round 5 onwards. Then head across to the Beehive Bill Broadcasting YouTube channel where all the extended highlights will be available, as I say, from round 5 onwards. Make sure that you hit that like button here over on the SRL YouTube channel though, and that you hit that subscribe button as well. You'll be notified when they go live and when you can see all of the amazing action, as well as any videos that they upload throughout the courses of the week. And also be sure to hit that follow button if you're watching over on the Twitch channel as well, so you can be notified whenever we go live, as we go live multiple times through the week with a lot of different series. Thank you so much, though, for watching here around the Zandvoort circuit. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I look forward to catching you at Winton for the next one. It is going to be a tight one. As Dan said there in our interview, there's going to be incidents in absolutely anything that you see. And motorsport, it is just a part of motorsport. But we also see some fantastic racing, and that is not something that is just a part of motorsport. That requires a community of drivers that are willing to go out there, put everything on the line, and to have fun doing it. So here at SRL, that is exactly what they do. They get out there, they have some fun, and they have a brilliant community behind it. Be sure to check it out by joining their Discord channel and having a look at what there is going on. But from here at Zandvoort, from me, Joseph, at Beehive Broadcasting, I hope that you have a fantastic week, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.